earlier I was talking about the difference between painting white as a color and the earlier understanding of white as being the absence of color. I'm very interested in working always with that kind of a very light palette. But at the same time, I'm equally as curious about these kinds of very intense colors. The little painting that we were looking at earlier, where there was a very small amount of yellow, if I had tried to make that painting into a large painting, it probably wouldn't have worked. Often the small paintings just don't work as larger paintings. So the challenge to myself was, well, what if I did use cadmium yellow light, which this is, right out of the tube? Would I be able to balance it off in the rest of the painting, carry the painting off? One of the problems with this yellow is that there's sort of a paradox in it, innate in it, in that it comes right out of the earth like this extraordinarily bright yellow. But the paint itself is very transparent. So when you put it on the canvas without anything underneath it, or let's say with white underneath it, it looks very runny and very light and doesn't hold itself at all. If you put a dark color underneath it, you often lose the intensity of the yellow because it's so fragile. So the problem was, what could be underneath this yellow that would keep its color going? And the answer to that was another kind of yellow, a yellow ochre, which is actually underneath. And also, it was very important that I found a figure that was in of itself very heavy and very muscular, as this particular character is. And this painting went through a number of changes and a number of colors that simply would not stand up to the brightness of this yellow. And I have two photographs of earlier backgrounds. One was when I felt that gray, a certain gray, was going to be able to deal with the yellow, and there's sort of a maroon background. And then this is when the face is still gray and there's a very blue-black background. Neither of these solutions worked. So I continued again with my interest in the catcher and all of his gear and the timelessness, but I was really much more concerned about how I would be able to keep this yellow from jumping out at the viewer or separating itself almost from the rest of his gear. The place, of course, to look for a solution to something like that would again be Matisse, where you see in this painting in his series that he did in Morocco, he's used color to define every part of the figure. So going back to that and thinking about it, I tried to make this resolution.